Girl, save your melodrama for your other show the same season, which I think I'll actually have an even harder time taking seriously than even this show. Our new series opened with a narration by Guido Mista. Oh boy, I hope we didn't catch him during his lunch break. And from there, we were introduced to one of the show's main characters in Toriko Koshi with a fourth wall break, which would be freaky enough if it weren't for the deers. We then got the opening to the show that surprisingly wasn't that one stupid dance, and is actually several stupid dances. Oh yeah, and the rest of the song was just as much an earworm as that one bit that was played ad nauseum all over social media. Though I also think it matched well with the visuals of this opening, which probably isn't too hard when you try to mix random with random. But still, I think it got across its main idea, which was the insanity of the show's title character and Toriko's butt monkey status, as she failed to pull off a principle from Nichijou and instead got dark souled, like literally they made that reference along with this one. And here I thought my memes were outdated. But yeah, Toriko's whole thing was that she was trying to pass herself off as a model student. And to her credit, she was able to pull it off properly and pretty effectively, and even humiliate this one redhead, who I'm sure won't be important to the rest of this show later on. However, deep down, this little kitty wasn't a macaron, but as her name suggested, a vicious tiger, and former thug, having been influenced by Tokyo Revengers of all things. Jeez, I hope that doesn't complicate their licensing on Crunchyroll. But yeah, much like the not-quite swastika from that show, she wanted to bury her past and start a new and peaceful high school life.
Yikes. Well, good luck with all that.
And after a little more fourth wall breaking, they just outright did some unabashed references. Too soon, girl! However, the girl turned out to be alive, and she was just hanging by her deer horns that appeared to be real, in spite of the fact that 1, female deers don't have horns, and 2, well, most people tend to not have horns at all. Thus, she tried to figure out if she was a Yuma, or maybe even a member of Shocker, because these references just keep coming. Though, before the show could get to the Precure references, Toriko tried to make a run for it, but was guilt-tripped into helping her down with my nightmare fuel for the next few weeks. She then of course asked how the deer girl ended up there. Well, that's what happens when you have some of the good crackers. Of course, Toriko wanted to get away from this girl ASAP, especially once her horns managed to pick up that she was a former thug. Though, if you know your anime cliches, which this show constantly likes to point out too, you can guess what happened once she got to her classroom, and their 17-year-old teacher said that she had an announcement. Directed by Zack Snyder. She introduced herself as Noko Shikanoko, or Nokotan, and of course ended up sitting right next to Toriko. Thus, she again tried to keep her quiet about her past, which Nokotan did seem like she'd be cooperative to, which led to her laying down her guard.
You'll be sorry!
Yeah, girl, everything that happens from here on out, it's your fault. Thus, Nokotan called her the big sister Yankee, which for some reason caught everyone's attention, including the CGI deer. Oh yeah, those things have kind of been here the whole time, I hardly noticed. But yeah, if that wasn't bad enough... You know, I think we really need a new background. Later, things only continued to spiral out of control for Toriko as she found her desk filled with deer crackers, and yeah, I'll give you one guess as to where they all came from. Wait, she actually learned how to use the door? Yes, of everything in the show, that's actually what bothers me the most. But yeah, Nokotan was giving them to her as thanks for saving her from the telephone poles. Of course, she wasn't much into actual animal food, which according to the show, some stupid kids would actually try themselves sometimes. Thus, Nokotan tried to offer her horns instead, which yeah, without them, she just kind of looks like Yukiko Hagiwara. Fortunately, she could avoid becoming an idol in this show by reattaching them, but there was still the little issue of repaying her.
もしやお姉さんの望みは
I've had venison, and I think it's kind of overrated. It's just kind of the texture that throws me off. All of this attracted even more unwanted attention to Torako, so she quickly dragged Nokotan to the bathroom with her. This was where Nokotan actually showed off more of her trolley side, if she hadn't been already, by suggesting that she might be into Yuri. Oh come on, we all know you both have your respective partners. She also gave Torako the nickname Koshtan that she begrudgingly accepted, but still wanted to silence her about the other thing.
正体それはコシタンが本当に処女だってこと？
Okay, y'all are starting to reach hocus pocus levels of using that word. That, by the way, was a Disney movie. Just felt like pointing that out. As a result, out of frustration, she ended up belittling Nokotan's horns, which led to some obvious trolling by her. Still, the former thug did honestly believe her tears, and started to realize how she really was just putting on an act as an art student, and currently wasn't living up to that act. It was actually a really good moment where she could really reflect on herself.
悪い角はもういいから
Yeah, let's go with this background for this show. After school, Koshtan tried to go home normally, but noises from a shed caught her attention, leading to even more trouble, and a bit of a repeated joke. Though I will give credit for this visual gag of her actually turning into the female leads of Conan and Kindaichi, and hey look, she can even grow a horn herself. Of course, Nokotan wasn't actually dead, and just had a massive gaping hole on top of her head, and hey, good to see you again there, dude. And not knowing when to just run away, and also be a bit of a tsundere, Koshtan ended up helping clean up the shed, which would prove to be her greatest mistake ever, as Nokotan was going to use it as her new club room. And guess who is going to be the first member to join her little deer club? Their 17-year-old teacher agreed to be their advisor, and also provided the butter to convince Koshtan to join in spite of her initial objections. Moreover, they decided to make her the president of this club, as their primary activity was to take care of deer, which I guess Nokotan qualified as? And while their school day was over, they decided to just immediately do their first club activity.
くそなんで私が
I would say this is the strangest form of Yuri I've ever seen, but no, not by a long shot. And with that, the episode ended with, okay, forget about Nokotan's stare, this is my actual nightmare fuel for the next few months. Oh, and the closing theme to this show was honestly kind of amazing, as not only did they show live footage of deer in Kyoto, and even a factory where they make the deer crackers like the ones that appeared in the show, I also think this whole song was a parody of Totoro's famous theme. Like, I could be wrong, but just the general melody and the characters walking across the screen just kind of gives me those vibes. Whatever the case, I think old man Miyazaki is going to get pissy in the end. But yeah, that was a bit of a trip and a half, and we still got a whole season to go through. I mean, to be fair, between the previews and the endless memeing, I can't say we shouldn't have expected any of this. And yet, for a first episode, this really managed to deliver on the insanity and hilarity that such a simple concept in a show like this about a deer girl could produce. It also kind of helps, it is my kind of humor with a lot of references and fourth wall breaking, which we kind of do a little bit here and there on this channel. It's just a light low. With any sort of comedy production, you of course want to lead with some of your best jokes to draw in viewers to your new show. Obviously, not all of the best material, otherwise they wouldn't have anything for later, and for the most part, this initial outing accomplished that. Granted, I'm not sure what could surpass the drooling deer girl, which honestly was my favorite joke here, but I'm sure they'll find something. But yeah, the thing I like about surreal comedies like this are both the little and big things. In the case of the latter, I like the drool gag just for the epic music and slow motion that they insist be put in there just for extra effect, as it acted as a good lead up to the otherwise obvious punchline. While the former were the jokes that kind of went unspoken, like the glass in the teacher's head. No, and of course, all of the very real deer just kind of walking around with no one paying attention to them. Stuff like that adds to the atmosphere, and does make it easier to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Though of course, watching just pure chaos isn't all that funny, so Koshtan was a vital part of the show's comedy, as Sakifuchita's straight man deliveries were just spot on. Helps that the virgin Yankee was very likable in spite of her shady past. It's clear that she honestly wanted to change, even if old habits did die hard. Which just made her interactions with Nokotan all the more hilarious, as it was clear that she was holding back going all out with this trolly fawn. And on that note, Megumi Han's deadpan yet kind of hyperactive performance here really got across Nokotan's fun-loving yet very chaotic nature. The two of them have a lot of chemistry and actually made for a great comedy duo in spite of Koshitan's objections, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing more of them throughout the season. Because overall, this is a great first outing with a lot of good laughs that even had enough time to clearly set up for some significant bits later. Whether you accept her crackers or not, let's face it, there's no escape from this show, and its seemingly endless barrage of memes. Thank you for watching this review that we actually managed to get out a little sooner because they had some early viewings for the show, which really just makes my weekend a little easier. For this season, we'll be covering another new show in The Magical Girl and Evil Lieutenant, which might come out on Wednesdays while we move the usual reviews for that day to Tuesdays. We'll see how it works out. Still, until then though, for now my friends, and girl, you better not break my doorway and cost me my safety deposit.